Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Lori Johnson. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has made it official. She's making a second bid for the White House. After a low-key announcement this weekend, she's already hitting the campaign trail. Gary Lane has more.
Unlike the big crowd-pleasing presidential campaign announcement of Tea Party favorite Ted Cruz, Hillary Clinton's official announcement came with little fanfare. There was no major rally, no balloons, no bands. Just this simple tweet and a video placed on social media.
Everyday Americans need a champion, and I want to be that champion.
And Monday morning, Hillary set off to Iowa in a van. One of her campaign strategies is to dispel the impression that she is a wealthy Washington insider by connecting with minorities and middle-income Americans.
It splices together the aspirations, the hopes, the stories of Latino voters, black voters, young voters, women. You really get this sense that Hillary's trying to resurrect that coalition.
The New York Post responded over the weekend with this cover, and these posters started appearing in Brooklyn. And Saturday Night Live lampooned Hillary just hours before her announcement.
Now hold up your phone, and you can just look natural, okay? Okay, and action.
Citizens, you will elect me. I will be your leader.
Despite the humor, Republicans are quick to make real substantive criticisms of Hillary Clinton's record as Secretary of State, mostly her use of a private email server to keep her text messages secret, and the deletion of most, if not all, of 30,000 messages. And, of course, her alleged cover-up of the Benghazi, Libya affair. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush was the first to jab Hillary shortly after her announcement.
We must do better than the Obama-Clinton foreign policy that has damaged relationships with our allies and emboldened our enemies.
Bush has yet to announce his 2016 presidential bid, but the Florida senator who calls Jeb Bush his mentor, Marco Rubio, was set to announce his presidential campaign Monday in Miami. With one Democrat in the field and now officially 3 Republicans, and with more to come, the U.S. presidential campaign season has begun. It'll be a long 500-plus days until the next presidential election. Gary Lane, CBN News.
This weekend, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu continued to raise the red flag over the Iranian nuclear deal.
Instead of allowing Iran to preserve and develop its nuclear capabilities, a better deal would significantly roll back these capabilities. For example, by shutting down the illicit underground facilities that Iran concealed for years from the international community.
Meanwhile, Netanyahu is getting support from a Middle East neighbor. Egyptian TV presenter Tawfik Okasha is calling on Netanyahu to bomb Iran. Okasha called the prime minister a dear friend and said, quote, "Put your trust in God and bomb it." That's a big switch for Egypt. For decades, its media has been extremely hostile towards Israel. Here in the U.S., Secretary of State John Kerry is urging congressional opponents of the emerging nuclear deal with Iran to hold their fire until they see a final agreement later this year.
The whole purpose of the sanctions was to have a negotiation. Now we're having that negotiation, and I think we've earned the right through what we've achieved in the interim agreement.
Kerry said he will brief lawmakers over the next 2 days as part of the Obama administration's effort to beat back a move among lawmakers to require congressional approval to ease sanctions on Iran. June 30th is the deadline for a final agreement. Along with the controversy over his Iran deal, President Obama is facing stiff opposition to his Cuba plans. Obama returned to Washington Sunday after his historic meeting with Cuban President Raul Castro. Obama is restoring diplomatic ties with the communist regime, and he plans to announce this week that he's removing Cuba from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. Cuban-American politicians on both sides say Cuba was on the ropes and President Obama failed to secure any meaningful reforms from Castro.
I think the president has a misguided calculation that if you open your hands to dictators, that they will unclench their fists.
Menendez points out Castro just arrested 600 innocent people right before his meeting with Obama. ISIS reportedly destroyed some of the world's greatest historical treasure. This online video shows Islamic State militants decimating artifacts dating back to the 13th century BC in the Iraqi city of Nimrud. The artifacts are from the Assyrian rule. They left behind dozens of palaces and temples containing alabaster relics depicting their king's conquests. ISIS says the relics violate their interpretation of Islamic law. The Islamic State says it wants $30 million in exchange for hundreds of Christian hostages. Fox News reports ISIS militants are demanding $100,000 for each hostage. The jihadi army captured 300 civilians in attacks on Syrian Christian villages in February. So far, it's released 23 of them. The Islamic State has targeted Christian areas of Syria, forcing them to convert to Islam and threatening to destroy their churches. Well, tired of all that intrusive airport screening before you board your flight? Well, wait till you see the gaping security holes on the other side of the airport. Vulnerabilities so bad, they make passenger screenings almost seem worthless. Dale Hurd has the story.
Chicago's O'Hare Airport. An intruder strolls across the tarmac and surprises a gate agent by entering from the secure side of a terminal door. At Virginia's Dulles Airport, a skateboarder crawls under a security fence and rides away. In Detroit, a woman sneaks through a vehicle gate and runs toward a hangar with 3 knives before police finally nab her.
I worry every single day about the vulnerabilities that exist at a large airport like this and where those could be exploited.
An investigation by the Associated Press found that over the past decade, nearly 300 people have trespassed on what are supposed to be secure airport areas. And the investigation looked only at the nation's largest airports. The AP suspects the total national number of airport intrusions is much higher. Some of the trespassers are mentally ill, like the man being arrested in this surveillance video. Christopher McGrath got over fences at LAX multiple times in 1 year on a mission to board a flight. He was finally sent for psychiatric evaluation in federal prison.
You're asking yourself, how did that happen? Why did it happen? And what can we do to keep that from happening in the future?
All major airports have security crews patrolling perimeters.
Checking out the badge, man. Just checking out your badge. Appreciate it.
Some lawmakers say more needs to be done.
It's a matter of either increasing the personnel that we have on the ground, which is going to be imperfect, or it's a matter of making an investment in technology.
But even the latest technology may not be able to stop every intruder every time.
There's nothing that's that can't be penetrated. The White House has had that issue also.
Officials are worried that if airport perimeter security isn't fixed, all that annoying, expensive, invasive screening of airport passengers won't prevent an attack. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
More bad news for travelers. It appears the quality of U.S. air travel is getting worse. That's according to a new airline business tracking report by a pair of university researchers. The report says more flights are late, more bags are getting lost, and customers are lodging more complaints. On-time arrival fell to 76% last year from 78% in 2013. The rate of lost, stolen, or delayed bags rose 13%. On-time performance also fell, and complaint rates rose at American, United, Delta, and Southwest. Coming up, Gesundheit. Allergy season is upon us. We'll show you how to ditch the antihistamines and fight your runny nose the natural way. So stay tuned. A bill that would ban exemptions from childhood vaccines is advancing through the California legislature. The measure would require school children in the state to be vaccinated. Parents would no longer be able to send unvaccinated children to school with waivers citing religious or personal beliefs. The bill is now before the California Senate for a vote. The push comes after an outbreak of measles a few months ago.
And we can't have people fearing to go outside, to go to their school, to go to a store, to get on public transport, to go to a theme park because they're worried about catching a disease like measles.
I think forcing children to do anything is not right. I think parents should be able to raise a child how they according to their beliefs.
They could be stepping on their religious freedom. You know, we do have a constitution, last time I checked, that still honors that.
If the bill passes the legislature and is signed by the governor, California would join Mississippi and West Virginia as the only states with such strict vaccine rules. Well, pollen is popping out everywhere, and allergy season will soon be in full swing. It's a time of year that usually means big money for drug companies, with allergy sufferers across the country paying around $15 billion for medicines. But there are some natural remedies to fight those runny noses and itchy eyes. If you sneeze a lot, feel stuffed up, and have itchy eyes, you're probably allergic to something. Usually you reach for an antihistamine, but according to Dr. Suzanne Bennett, allergy drugs can create a whole new set of problems.
If you take an antihistamine, you're going to get really tired. If you're a child, actually, it can be the opposite. You get really hyper, can't sleep. I mean, there's so many different side effects.
Like raising your blood pressure or causing urinary problems. That's why for 25 years, Dr. Bennett's helped her allergy patients the natural way with treatments like vitamin C, quercetin, and pine bark extract, which have no side effects. She also recommends trying to keep allergens out of your body. We're constantly bombarded with things we might be allergic to, from things in our diet to what we breathe. But the more of these allergens we can get out of our lives, the better equipped we'll be to handle the ones we can't. In her new book, The 7-Day Allergy Makeover, Dr. Bennett explains how to figure out your allergies and reduce your overall toxic load.
That's easy stuff. It really is. You just got to do it one by one. It's much easier than you think.
For example, many patients are surprised to find what they thought was a pollen allergy turned out to be an allergy to something else.
And I always look at nutrition as our #1 way to get rid of allergies. And you're going to say, well, I've got nasal allergy, so what does having something to eat have anything to do with my nose? Some people don't realize that they might be eating, let's say, a peanut butter sandwich, and then they start getting a runny nose, right? Or a little tickle in their throat and start to have that postnasal drip. Well, they don't realize it's from the peanut butter and jelly.
There are 6 main food allergies. Dr. Bennett instructs patients to give them up one at a time for 2 weeks and see if they feel better. They start with dairy, then gluten, sugar, peanuts, eggs, and mold. Food molds are fungi like blue cheese, mushrooms, and yeast. Also, many bagged foods can contain mold.
Also, dried fruits can be very fungally. Granolas that are in packaged items, chips, as well as packaged potato chips, corn chips, tortilla chips, anything that comes in a bag, wrapper, because mold can start growing in it. And that could be a big problem.
Sometimes we see mold on produce, but often mold is too small to see. Get rid of it by mixing water and vitamin C powder, then soaking your produce in the mixture for 10 minutes and drying it. After you deal with the allergens in your diet, focus on the ones in your home. Some people mistake seasonal allergies for allergies to dust mites, which are microscopic bugs that feed on our dead skin, which is all over our bed, sofa, carpet, even our kids' stuffed animals. A quick fix is washing sheets in hot water each week, putting dust mite covers on pillows and mattresses, while also frequently vacuuming and dusting. Other indoor allergens include bathroom mold and pet dander.
You want to take your pets, your loving animals out of your bed, because that also is a slew of allergenic antigens that will cause allergic reactions and respiratory issues.
While we can't do much about pollen, we can try to keep it out of our homes by closing windows, removing pollen-covered shoes and clothes, and washing the pollen out of our hair. An air purifier can capture what we miss.
Use a HEPA filter with a carbon filtration system. That combination is the best to clean the air inside.
Also, regularly replace your air filters and have your air ducts professionally cleaned once a year.
When you do that, you can get all the mold, dust, dust mites, pollen, anything that collects in the vents, you're going to remove as well.
We all know sneezing and congestion point to allergies, but you may not know allergy symptoms can also include headaches, digestive problems, even anxiety and trouble sleeping. 3-year-old Jackson's allergies caused severe skin irritation.
It was terrible. I mean, he just was in so much discomfort, and Jackson would rub his face so raw that he would be bleeding and infected.
Dr. Bennett figured out the source of Jackson's allergies, and now he's fine.
We don't do dairy for him. We don't do gluten. And we stay away from soy and nuts because they also irritate him. We've also put air filters in our home, which has been really helpful for his seasonal allergies.
So before you medicate allergy symptoms, consider getting to the root of the problem. You might end your allergies altogether or become better equipped to fight the ones that remain. And I'm living proof that you can overcome your allergies the natural way, but admittedly, it is a lot of work. So if you would like to kind of take the easy route and go the pharmaceutical route, there's lots of information on our website about what pills work, even allergy shots. That's on CBNNews.com. Well, up next, coffee for the kingdom, how American churches are helping Latin American farmers build their communities. A couple of churches about 1,500 miles apart are helping poor farmers in countries about 1,000 miles apart. And as David Mims explains, it's all for Christ and coffee.
When the devastating earthquake hit Haiti in January 2010, many groups sent relief teams to the area. One such group was the Woodlands Church, located outside Houston, Texas. Port-au-Prince, the capital of Haiti, received much of the relief and most of the news coverage. But the Woodlands missionaries found that villagers in the mountains were also in need of help, and not just hurricane relief.
We were there and saw that there was coffee actually lying on the ground, coffee beans lying on the ground, just scattered. And when we asked, tell us about that, what's going on? And they said, well, no one will buy our coffee. We have no one to sell it to.
The problem was the remoteness of the village.
So these were people who were starving and didn't have enough food or clothing or education for their kids, but yet they had a means there, but no one to buy it. And so we said, well, it turns out, well, you're good at growing coffee, we're good at drinking coffee.
Green coffee beans are shipped to Miami, then trucked to Houston.
And then volunteers here will roast and package the coffee, and then our congregation buys it up like crazy and drinks it.
With an 18,000-plus church attendance each week, their coffee, formerly called Summit but now branded as WC Trading Company coffee, has a built-in market.
And it's an easy buy. We tell people in our congregation, hey, you're going to buy coffee anyway, so why not make a choice here, make a difference in this place.
The church estimates the joint coffee business is probably helping close to 8,000 Haitian family members.
We basically give them a fair trade price. It's 3 times more than any other coffee dealers would give them. But then when we sell it here, we take the profits and we go back and do clinics and feeding programs and teaching programs.
About 1,500 miles to the northwest in America's capital city, the National Community Church, or NCC, is doing in Colombia what Woodlands is doing in Haiti, but with a twist. Their brand of coffee is grown in a guerrilla conflict zone, notorious for kidnappings, car bombings, and assassinations. Church members Santiago Muncaida and Steve Thaler were on a mission trip working with local children.
The pastor that we invited to come share at the event later told us the testimony of these farmers that live in a mountain region that's controlled by the guerrilla rebels. And he explained how after they came to faith, they eradicated their cocaine fields and planted coffee in its place.
When Muncaida and Thaler arrived on the scene, the coffee was ready to harvest. They suggested a partnership.
Originally, we started with just a little bit of coffee, bringing it in and sharing it with the congregation, but that quickly expanded into thousands of pounds of coffee that we now import.
Redeeming Grounds coffee is not only sold in D.C., but also on the web at redeeminggroundscoffee.com.
The response in the U.S. for this coffee has been great. So things are growing, and with just a few farmers we started with, we've already eradicated over 55 acres of cocaine fields. That translates to about 1,700 kilos worth of cocaine off of the street. That's a street value of over $88 million.
The Colombian farmers decide how the profits are spent.
This year they want to buy presents for the guerrilla rebels during Christmas and encourage them to go home and be with their families, hug their children.
In the past, money has been used to build irrigation systems and fund education programs. Redeeming Grounds is sold at Ebenezer's, NCC's coffee shop on Capitol Hill, and other specialty shops around the country. Munkaida says new customers get introduced to the power of Christ's love.
They are always curious to understand why it is that these farmers are planting coffee instead of cocaine, because of the reasonable assumption that cocaine farming is certainly much more lucrative. And that's when we get a chance to share the heart behind it. We get a chance to share the testimony of these farmers and how coming to faith convicted them to make this change.
People see us coming back as a church time after time and doing things not just that make us feel good, but in things that they actually need in their communities.
And so we always say that Christ plus caffeine really works, because we can change the world twice as fast because we drink so much coffee.
I'm David Mills, CBN News.
Operation Blessing continues to help orphan children in Liberia. Gamay runs Operation Blessing's orphanage in Monrovia. She met some of the children while collecting bodies on the streets during last year's Ebola outbreak. One of the kids she met is Georgina, who lost both parents to Ebola. Through the program, Georgina and more than 150 other orphans receive food, clothing, school supplies, and toys. The program is also providing each child with financial support so they can attend school and have a brighter future. You can find out more about Operation Blessing by going to their website at ob.org. Well, that's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Have a great day, everyone.